What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Water Cooler Quarterback, where we act like we know things about football. My name is Andrew, and on today's video, we are going to be taking a look at all the games that Week 3 has to offer. Before we get into the games, I want to go ahead and take a look at how the Water Cooler Quarterback Pick Em League is looking through the first 2 weeks. As of right now, you have got Team Taeyong in a commanding lead with a record of 21-11, a total of 210 points. Followed closely by Donzi Lee and Football Americano. I find myself way down here in 7th place. So my little catchphrase of where we act like we know things about football, maybe there's a little more truth to that than I intended. Now, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the Week 3 games. When I was going through making my picks for Week 3, I noticed something, and that is that a lot of these games are seemingly pretty lopsided. At the time I was making my picks, 9 of the 16 games had 90% of America's votes on one team in particular. And all that says to me is we're probably in for an upset or two. Any given Sunday is always a thing, and with that in mind, let's get into the games. First up, we've got the Tennessee Titans taking on the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Browns started off the season looking pretty hot, taking down Joe Burrow and the Bengals, but ultimately fell to the Steelers in Week 2. Deshaun Watson has not looked great with a completion percentage of just about 55%, but the Browns defense should do pretty well against the Titans offense that also has not been looking so great. And when I say that the Titans offense hasn't been doing so great, that of course excludes Derrick Henry. While the Browns have not given up a lot on the ground so far, they've yet to face a running back of this caliber. And I think that King Henry's contribution to the offense could be the tipping point in this game. Because as we all saw in primetime on Monday night, the Browns have lost their star running back Nick Chubb for the rest of the season. This game was going to be a gritty defensive ground and pound type game between two offenses led by their star backs. But now it looks like the Browns just aren't going to be able to keep up in the running game. They did re-sign Kareem Hunt, who was previously a free agent, and they still have Jerome Ford, so they'll be fine on the ground. But Derrick Henry is a completely different beast. The Titans already have a great run defense, and now they don't have to worry about Nick Chubb. And with Deshaun Watson's passing game not being in tip-top shape, I do think the Titans are going to win this one. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons are headed to the Motor City to take on Dan Campbell's Lions. The Lions will likely be without David Montgomery, who suffered an injury in the team's loss to the Seahawks last week. So it looks like Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be in line for a serious workload. And this game will likely be what the last game should have been, a brutal run-heavy matchup between two great rushing attacks. And with both teams being so good in the run game, I think this game is going to be decided through the air. And I have to give the edge to the Lions there. Jared Goff is currently leading the league's 4th best passing offense, and Desmond Ridder with the Falcons is leading just the 28th. And that is a serious disparity. So I think that the air attack is going to be what decides this game. I'm going to go ahead and give the edge to the Lions here and say that they are able to get back on track after a loss last week and get back in the win column. Then you've got the Saints taking on the Packers for Green Bay's home opener. And let me tell you, Jordan Love is looking pretty good. He's had back-to-back games of 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. And that's with a severely injured offense. He's yet to even have his wide receiver 1, Christian Watson, in the fold yet. With guys like Watson and Aaron Jones hopefully back in the lineup, this offense could just get better and better. However, the Saints defense is likely the best unit that Jordan Love has faced so far this season. With playmakers at every level, this defense could give the Packers some trouble. And while Derek Carr leading the Saints offense hasn't been the most explosive thing I've ever seen, they're getting the job done. So if their defense can hold the Packers down, I think that the Saints offense can do enough to get a W. But you also have to remember that the Packers defense has been playing really well through the first 2 weeks. All in all, I think this is going to be a relatively low-scoring affair, and it could go either way. I am going to give the edge to the Packers here as they are playing at home, and home field advantage, especially in Lambeau, is a real thing. So look for both these teams to be 2-1 by the time the week is out. Then you've got the Broncos heading to Miami to take on the Dolphins, and this game should be interesting. Last week, the Dolphins' offense remained functional and efficient against a really good New England defense, scoring enough to get a hard-earned victory. Now they face another really good defense with the likes of Patrick Surtain in the secondary. But despite the Broncos' defense, I do have the Dolphins winning this one. September games in Miami are a death sentence for the opposing team. The stadium is literally designed to keep the home team in the shade and keep the away team baking in the Miami sun. So the Broncos are going to have to not only deal with the team in front of them who can run or pass at will, but they're also going to have to deal with incredibly harsh elements. So I've got Miami staying undefeated and Denver remaining winless. Now the Chargers at the Vikings is going to be a make or break game for both of these teams. Both teams made the playoffs last year and have started the year off 0-2. Both fan bases seem to be in a bit of a panic, and whoever loses this game may have their season come to an end before it even really began. And this game has got all the makings of a shootout. If you have any Vikings or Chargers on your fantasy team, make sure to keep them in your lineup, because both defenses rank in the bottom 4th in the league. The Chargers defense has proven themselves to be unreliable despite their laundry list of talented players, and they're going to have their hands full with guys like Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and of course Justin Jefferson. Meanwhile, the Vikings are just letting opposing teams run all over them. Lucky for them, they won't have to deal with Austin Eckler as he's likely out with an injury, but they got to shore that up. Based on the way that the season has started for these teams, I just feel gross no matter who I pick. The Chargers have let me down back-to-back weeks, and the Vikings I just don't trust at all. So I'll do this one more time. This is it, LA. You've got 2 strikes. 3 and you're out. I'll pick you to win this game, and if you lose, I'm done. If you lose this game, I have officially lost all faith in you. So against my better judgment, I am picking the Chargers to win this. Then you've got the Patriots visiting the New York Jets, and I feel like a broken record, but man, this game would have been so much fun to see Aaron Rodgers play in. But he's not playing, so moving on. If the Patriots heading to MetLife to take on the Jets is not going to be a gritty defensive battle, I don't know what is. That said, I think Bill Belichick is going to have this game well in hand. The Patriots defense is going to eat Zach Wilson alive, and as much as we'd like to see this Jets team succeed even without Rodgers, I just think this is the type of game that Bill Belichick dreams about. This is what he lives for. This is the face of a man that loves ripping your heart out, stomping on your dreams, and kicking your sorry butt to the curb when he's done with you. Bill Belichick is not going to let Zach Wilson win this game. I'm telling you that right now. And as good as the Jets defense is, I think Mac Jones has looked much better than he did last year. He's impressed me with a few of his throws and has led some pretty good drives. And I've said it before, but I don't think that the Patriots are just going to roll over and die in the AFC East. So I'd be looking for them to escape MetLife with their first win in Week 3. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get into some of those lopsided games I was talking about. The Buffalo Bills are heading to Washington, D.C. to take on the Commanders. And, well, let's just say the Commanders are really hoping that Week 1 Josh Allen shows up rather than Week 2 Josh Allen. Last week, Allen threw for 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, and had a completion percentage of nearly 84%. He hardly rushed the ball at all, which is actually a good thing. The Bills finally did what we have been asking them to do for so long. They committed to the run with a running back. Thank you. Do you see now, Bills? Do you see how effective your offense can be when you don't rely on Josh Allen for absolutely everything? The Commanders have been playing better than expected. I mean, they're 2-0 right now, but they're coming up against a Bills team who got back on track last week, and I don't expect them to slow down one bit. So I've got the Bills keeping their momentum, getting the W, and chugging right along to Week 4. Now we've got an AFC South divisional matchup between the Texans and the Jaguars. And all in all, the second round pick, CJ Stroud, has been looking pretty good so far this year. He's got the Houston Texans in the top 5 of passing offenses and is looking better than the first overall pick, Bryce Young, at the moment. I'd like to see Dameon Pierce get the running game going a little bit more, but, I mean, all told, I'm pretty happy with what the Texans have been doing so far this year. That said, they're going up against a Jaguars team who had a terrible game last week. Opportunity after opportunity wasted. And that simply cannot happen if you have any hopes of beating the Chiefs. The Jags are going to want that game back all season long, especially if it affects playoff seeding at the end of the season. So while I do expect the Jaguars to win this week and have a get-right game against a division opponent, I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the upsets we see. The Texans are playing relatively well for their standard, and the Jaguars are kind of stumbling. So it's certainly possible. Do I think it'll happen? No. Now, if you hate quarterbacks that can run and all this newfangled offense and stuff like that, you may just want to steer clear of the Colts-Ravens game. Because Anthony Richardson and Lamar Jackson may set some sort of record for rushing yards by opposing quarterbacks. These two are absolutely electric when they have the ball in their hands, and they are so much fun to watch. Ultimately, the Ravens are a far better team and should have little trouble winning this game. And at the time of recording this, Anthony Richardson may not even play as he's currently in concussion protocol, in which case the Ravens are definitely going to win. So let's hope he's okay, but this is Baltimore's game to lose. Now, the afternoon games kick off with the Carolina Panthers visiting the Seattle Seahawks. The Panthers are struggling a bit. They're 0-2. Bryce Young keeps getting picked off and sacked, and the rushing game ain't exactly setting any records. They sold out for the first overall pick in the offseason, which is a move that I applauded, but now they find themselves with this sort of mishmash of other teams' hand-me-down offensive weapons. There's nothing inherently wrong with Miles Sanders or Adam Thielen or Hayden Hurst, but this simply isn't an offense that is going to elevate your rookie quarterback. So I am going to go ahead and pick the Seahawks on this one. Playing at home against a team that is struggling to get anything going, the Hawks should be locked in for a Week 3 win. Then you've got the Bears headed to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs. And, wow. Not a good time for your defensive coordinator to resign, Chicago. I don't really know what was going on with that story. There was a lot of information flying around, a lot of misinformation flying around, and it still feels like we haven't gotten an answer on what the heck is going on. But the bottom line is the Chicago Bears are without their defensive coordinator. And that is not what you want going up against Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs have not been themselves to start the year after a rocky game last week and, of course, the loss in Week 1, but against the Bears, I think they are set up for success. Even though I feel both teams are underperforming, they're in completely different stratospheres when it comes to what we expect from them. The Chiefs should win this game, plain and simple. I don't really think the Bears have a real shot, but you never know. Now, so far we've had a few lopsided matchups, but this one may take the cake. The Dallas Cowboys have looked like one of, if not the best team in the National Football League. Their defense has been so good that it makes their offense look bad because their offense doesn't need to do anything to win. So if you're frustrated by the Cowboys on your fantasy team not getting you any points, well, blame the Cowboys defense for not allowing any shootouts. To drive home the point about how good this Dallas defense is, I've got a question for you. Which do you think is the higher total? Cowboys points allowed or Cowboys sacks? If you said they're the same, you're correct. The Cowboys have 10 sacks through 2 weeks. The Cowboys have also only allowed 10 points through 2 weeks. It's an average of 5 a game for all you math nerds out there. The Cowboys offense could score an average of 1 touchdown a game, and they'd be fine because this defense is so good. So the Cardinals are in for quite the game. This is a real David and Goliath situation. And given how the game last week ended for the Cardinals, I'm pretty worried about how Week 3 is going to go. All that matters for Cardinals fans is that we're 1 week closer to Kyler Murray's return. God, we need Kyler Murray. Anyway, Cowboys win. Moving on. Then you've got the Pittsburgh Steelers heading to Vegas to take on the Raiders on Sunday night. The Steelers are coming off of a win in Week 2 where their defense was the star of the show. They find themselves in Week 3 facing a Raiders team who, at least in my estimation, has kind of struggled to find their identity. Are they an offensive team? Are they a defensive team? Do they run the ball well? Do they pass the ball well? Do they do anything well? I'm not even sure about that. The Raiders just kind of exist right now and could really use a big game out of last year's rushing leader Josh Jacobs, as he's been pretty quiet these past 2 weeks. So I do have the Steelers winning this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders pull something off at home. Now we've got a bout between two undefeated teams in the Eagles and the Buccaneers to kick off a Monday night doubleheader. The Eagles may be 2-0, but seem to be somewhat underperforming. Their wins have been anything but dominant, and 2 weeks in a row, they've allowed their opponent to crawl back into games. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers have got nothing to lose. After Tom Brady left, everybody wrote them off, and now they're just playing their hearts out and seeing what happens. And what's happening is them winning games. I do have the Eagles winning this one, but with the way these two teams have been playing to start off the season, I wouldn't be surprised if it's close. Then to wrap it all up, you have got the Rams visiting the Bengals as the second game on Monday night. The Rams are looking so much better than we expected. Stafford looks like the Stafford of old. Puka Nacua is an instant star at the wide receiver position, and their defense has been playing really well, going toe-to-toe with the 49ers last week. All this to say, a game that prior to the season seemed like a cakewalk for the Bengals is going to be anything but. The Bengals have got to figure out their offense and fast. Hopefully the Joe Burrow injury doesn't nag him all season, but it looks like it could play a factor this week. So all told, this Super Bowl rematch looks like it's going to go the way it did the first time. I've got the Rams winning this one to keep their spirits high and push the Bengals all the way down to 0-3. And that is going to do it for me, folks. That is all of the games happening this weekend in Week 3. Be sure to let me know down in the comments which games you are going to be watching this weekend and who you think is going to win. Be sure to like this video and subscribe if you want more, because we got a lot more coming. My name is Andrew, this is Water Cooler Quarterback, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.